Hey guys, it's the Ginger Ghostbuster here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the I Ain't Afraid No Ghosts line from Titan. Now this is based on the second movie of the franchise, and I have a whole case here that if any of you have been following me on Instagram will know that I've showed them all off on there. And today we're going to take a closer look at each figure, say what I like, what I don't like about each figure, and we're going to compare some of them to the first series that came out from Titan that was based on the first series, just to see what was different, if there's anything been improved since the first time. So without further ado, let's get started. So first off, we're going to start with the iconic car, the Ecto-1A. Now this car is similar to the first one, but it has some major differences. For one, the logo on the front is the second movie's logo. On the side there's more hazardous tape, again the logo from the second movie, the phone number and the call us. And then the back has the logo once again. This side again has more labels on top, and even the roof rack's completely different. There's more stuff on the roof rack this time round, because if I pull in the Ecto-1 from the first movie, you can see some similarities to them, but at the same time you can see the differences. For example, you can see that the license plates read Ecto-1 on the original and Ecto-1A on the sequels. The bonnet, there's no Ghostbusters logo. On the side though, the logos are completely different to coincide with each movie. You can even see that the roof racks are completely different. The original has a ladder going up to the roof with the siren and stuff. And even the way that the wiring and the colour of the wiring is different on this side. So that was the Ecto-1A. And the first character we're going to take a look at in this series is Winston Zeddemore, quite often underlooked when it comes to the Ghostbusters movies. So here you can see is how he appeared in Ghostbusters 2. The uniform is appropriately in the right colour, the grey. You can see the Ghostbusters 2 logo on his shoulder. His name tag says Zeddemore. And the proton pack on the back with the thrower in his hand. Now, if we take a look at the first iteration of Winston from the first line that Titan did, we can see that there's some differences between the two figures. One thing to note is that each one has the respective logo, but in terms of everything else it's really just a repaint with stuff. But one thing to note is the face sculpture. One, that the skin tones are slightly different, and two, the original sports the moustache that Winston had in the first movie, whereas the second sports Winston clean shaven, which is movie accurate. I think this is a great example of Titan taking things a step further to show the difference between the two characters. And now next up we have Dr. Ray's stance. And here you can see Dr. Ray in all his glory. And again, similar to Winston, is the patch on the side. And the proton pack. And this is a good likeness to Dan Aykroyd. And if we take a look at the Ray from the first iteration, you can see there's not much difference between these two apart from a repaint. Now, one of the things that I am a bit bitter about with this line is the fact that all the Ghostbusters have proton packs. It would have been nice if we could have had maybe two of them with slime blowers just to coincide what would be in the second movie. But the fact that we did get these characters in such great detail is a benefit. And next up we have Dr. Egon Spengler. So here he is. That's a lovely head sculpt. A real true likeness to Harold Ramis. Now we've got 3 iterations to show you for this character. We have how he appeared in the first movie, which you can see there's not too much difference between the two, but not much changed from the character between the first and the second movie. And it is Egon covered in mood slime. Now this is from that scene in the movie where Egon, Ray and Winston come out from the sewer completely covered in mood slime, and Ray and Winston are ready to kill each other, but Egon stops them both by getting them to strip off, as you do. And the last official Ghostbuster character in this line is Peter Venkman. And here he is. That's a very good likeness to Bill Murray. And again, the No Ghost logo, proton pack, everything's in order. And again, this is another character that I've got 3 iterations of. So from the first series, you've got Peter in his original outfit, and there's not much change in the sculpt, but again, there wasn't much that changed from Peter between the first and the second movie. But the third iteration that we've got is from this line, and it is Peter Venkman as he appears from World of the Psychics. And now this is a great figure. It just shows them in that very, very stylish suit that he wore, and it's great again to have another Ghostbuster that isn't wearing their proton pack at the time. Now, I said the last character was one of the last official Ghostbusters, but in this line we're giving Louis Tully as he appeared when he strapped on the proton pack and tried his best to help the guys out. I love the detail in this figure, the fact that Louis has these little ear warmers on and he looks so nervous with himself. Now we're going to compare this to the first iteration we got of Louis Tully as he was the key master in Ghostbusters 1. And you can see that there's some slight differences between the sculpt between this one and the last one, notably the apparatus on his head, the eye colour, the difference between the styles. But even down to, if you look at the back of the figure, you'll see that Louis's hair is a bit unkept, whereas in the new figure it is well kept. Even for someone running, trying to save the day, it looks impeccable. And speaking of that scene where Louis runs to save the Ghostbusters, he goes and gets on a bus, and who is he greeted by? It is Slimer himself. Now this is a great figure. It comes with an accessory of the steering wheel. He doesn't stand too well, but I've managed to get him there. He has his little busman's cap. The figure is translucent. There's some great detail all over. Now let's compare him to his first movie counterpart, which this one isn't in a translucent plastic. Essentially it's the same figure, but the fact that he comes with the little bus driver hat, the steering wheel, and is translucent makes this guy even better for me in the second series. And speaking of people that had relationships with Louis Tully, we have Janine. Now in the second movie she changed the look up to be a bit more sexy with her red hair and a dress there. A very fiery character. And if you compare it to the first movie iteration, you can see the difference between the two characters. Everything from the glasses, the dress sense, the hairstyle, completely different character in terms of the way that it happened. And next we have Dana Barrett from the second movie. And here she is. A very basic character, but I love the design overall. Just wearing a very simple dress. I believe this is the dress that she wore when she went on the date with Peter, before it was interrupted by his fellow Ghostbusters covered in mood slime. Now let's compare her to the first movie counterpart when she was the gatekeeper. Now we can see a complete difference. The hair is out there as the character did appear, the dress is different, even down to the facial expression. You can see the malice in the first series figure, but in the second you can see that's much softer, a the Dana Barrett that we know and love. Now we're going to get on to some villains. There's not many in this line, but we have two versions of this particular guy. It is Janos. We could not really call him a villain because he was under the control of Vigo, but at the same time I love this sculpt showing the goofiness of the character, who is from the Upper West Side, showing him in his normal attire there. Now the other iteration we have of this figure, which scared me to death as a kid when I watched the Ghostbusters 2 movie, is when he was in his nanny costume when he came and snatched Oscar. And look at that, the evil in the eyes. And they had a bonus of him coming with a paintbrush, which I really think is probably better suited to go with Janos himself, considering his job at the library. So I think that looks better. But you can display it either way that you want. And now we have the main bad guy of the movie. It is Vigo himself. Now looking at this figure, it is an absolute great sculpt of the character. The face, you can see how menacing he looks, and everything down to the way that he's dressed. The detail in this figure is fantastic. And one of the other figures that we got of Vigo is him in his paint form. You can see him there, stood on a mountain of skulls as he's depicted in the painting. I love the fact that it is 3D relief, so his face is popping out, almost like that scene where he started popping out while Dana wasn't looking. But this is a fantastic job on the villain of Ghostbusters 2. And the last figure from this series, which I don't have anyone to compare him with, there was only one version of him, but it's still just as good. It is the Scoleri brother. Now this is a fantastic sculpt. It's shown him in the electric chair that the judge gave him all them years ago, just before he bursts out and terrorizes the courtroom. It's in a great translucent plastic, and he stands really well. Now the only thing I wish is that we had his brother to go alongside him. Now that would be fantastic, but beggars can't be choosers, and getting one Scoleri brother is better than getting no Scoleri brothers. So that was Titan's I Ain't Afraid No Ghost line. Overall the whole series was great. There was a couple of nitpicks, as I say. I would have liked to have seen at least two of the Ghostbusters with Slime Bros to help distinguish that from the first movie a little bit. But I do understand from Titan's perspective that they've obviously just made them changes for a bit of a money saving idea, and I can't blame them for that. And it would have been nice to maybe get the second Scoleri brother, but at the end of the day it's nice that they did what. I love the line, I love the first line just as much. But what would I like to see going forward with Titan? Well, I'd like to see them maybe do a real Ghostbusters line based on the animated show. You know, you could have all four Ghostbusters, you could have Lewis, you could have Sam Hain or the Sandman, get any of them villains from that show. You could even have a special chase set of the Spectral Ghostbusters. Now that would be really lovely to have all four Ghostbusters from that series, but in a translucent green. That would be a great chase set. Also, it would be nice if we could have the Ghostbusters Answer the Call /2016 line. They could make figures for that as well, and I would buy either one of them. That's the only downside of coming up with these suggestions, that I'd love them, but my bank account wouldn't. So that was my thoughts on the Ghostbusters I Ain't Afraid No Ghosts line from Titan. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.